Repping it. 3,
Three.
2, 1. Let's get it.
Yeah, man. You start.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? KRP Broadcasting proudly presents your tag team champions of the world, the Dark King, J.R. Kambakungan, also not J.R. Comics 42 on Instagram. The voice of reason, Kevin Pillow. We are the New Age Outlaws. I don't know how that was going to go. I was just trying something. We're just riffing here. What's up, guys? Welcome to PS Comics. I love you. The fighting episode, where we're looks like I'm looking at the notes. JR is fighting from head to toe. We've got video game fights, we've got fights, and we've got Shang Chi fights, and we might have some rap battle fights coming. I don't know. We might talk about the Super Bowl. We hinted at it, but
yeah, man. Before that, I also got some news too for another fight. It's actually with a distributor, the new distributor for comic books. I forgot to put it in the notes, but that will be added into. But I don't want to steal my compatriots' thunder. Go ahead, my friend.
Well, what's going on, dude? We are getting in it. This is in the thick. We've got so much stuff going on right now. It is ridiculous. We've got Tokyo Game Show coming up here. We had more gaming last week. We've got What If season 1 season finale as we record this tomorrow. Black Widow finally coming free to Disney Plus tomorrow. We are less than a month away, or probably I'll tell you that we're just a little over a month away from Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings coming to Disney Plus for free, plus Blu-ray in about 2 months, and digital in about a month. We've got Hawkeye in 2 months. We've got Boba Fett in 2.5, 3 months. My God, man, we've got some stuff to talk about. And then we've got Eternals, we've got Venom, we've got 007, we've got Tony Soprano, not Tony. No, we got Tony Soprano. We got all kinds of stuff. Anyways, what's up, guys? Thank you again, as always. I'm gonna get right into this before I say anything, because I don't think it's in the news and notes.
No. Oh, good.
I was gonna say I want to throw this in here. I did watch The Many Saints of Newark. As a diehard, I have beat the drum of The Sopranos and David Chase for damn near 20 years. And I don't think I can do it anymore. The Many Saints of Newark was not good. Had some good points, but overall, I think he tried to cram too much into 2 hours. I think we can get into The Many Saints of Newark at a later time. Hey, if you've got HBO Max, let your opinion fly. Don't just take my word for it. If you're a Sopranos fan, get after it. If you're not a Sopranos fan, you can still watch it as a standalone movie, but it's kind of like, to me, I watched Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back first. It was funny. Then my buddy showed me Clerks, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Mallrats, all that stuff, and it was even funnier after seeing the Jersey trilogy. This is the same thing. If you watch The Sopranos, you're going to get more. You can watch this movie and, for the most part, kind of enjoy it as a standalone mob movie. But we'll do Many Saints of Newark at a later time, because it's still fresh. But Shang-Chi, it's been out for a while. We'll get to that here on the bottom half of this show. JR, though, he is all things gaming, all things Japanese, all things just craziness. And I'm looking at this news thing here, and we've got some stuff to get into, my friend.
Yeah, man.
Why don't we get right in? Or do you have anything else, or we want to just get into it?
Actually, before we'll just get into the TGS stuff, because I know that Tokyo Game Show, of course, my peeps, is one of the more pivotal, or I guess in the last decade or so, maybe a little more than that, where it comes to prominence, because hey, it's kind of like E3. It's the Japanese version of E3, basically. And so TGS live stream happened this week, and it continued this ongoing trend of streaming their event online because, of course, Japan is still going under restrictions for the COVID-19 pandemic, but it still hasn't stopped the desire and ever-growing desire to make and play new games. Some of the standouts for me personally, and I don't think Kevin has actually had a chance to go see any of the TGS stuff. This man has been busy all week. This man
Been nonstop, man.
Is a full-time dad as well as a full-time employee. And so, yeah. So I had a little bit of my free time. I saw some stuff that I enjoyed. Granted, Tokyo Game Show is one of those events where it's like the culture is different, absolutely. And so what Japan likes is gonna be much different from what we like, as like, and this goes across to towards gaming. But some stuff that I did love from that show is one Wanted, Dead. Wanted semicolon Dead is an official trailer. It's from the makers of Ninja Gaiden, makers of Dead or Alive, that Fighting Combat trilogy. I think it's Konami. It's not Tecmo. I think it's Tecmo, Konami Tecmo. And so that looks really good. I'm pretty sure my friend here can attest. One of the biggest, I guess, negatives from a lot of Japanese-made games is that they look very outdated in sense of graphics. What it's looking like now,
yeah,
right?
And we saw that too, real quick. What was that game that we saw from the Nintendo launch? What was that one? That was it's the female lead
Bayonetta.
character. What is it?
Bayonetta. Yeah.
They all kind of have, and it's tough for me to say this, but they all kind of have the same look and feel to them. Like, even to the graphics, like the Bayonetta graphics, like the logo looks like Tekken. It's all the same. So and like JR said, the graphics seem like 1998. Those were phenomenal. In 2006, 2007, 2008, still pretty good. 2021, you need to step your game up.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like there was this weird trend across all of all of like Japanese gaming that they have a tendency to look kind of samey. And so you'll get games that were like they have a lot of these 3D outdoors type of stuff. They look very kind of like hollow. And this is a guy who played Near Replicant type of stuff, right? Those games are great. Don't get me wrong, but like they could definitely use enhanced graphics type of thing. But from what I'm looking at, from a lot of the games that came out on TGS, they look like to have that type of upwards in or like at least that type of like upgrading in technical or graphical fidelity. Games like Unwanted Dead. I saw that one. Gungrave G.O.R.E. For those who played PS2 Gungrave, I remember that freaking game. They have a remake coming out. That game looks great. A Rise of Awakener is like it feels very Dead Souls. No, not Dead Souls. Very Dark Souls, but it's not. It graphically looks great. It's in pre-alpha, I think, or like alpha development. But it also reminds me of another game called Dragon's Dogma. That's been getting thrown out a lot. That game looks freaking awesome. King of Fighters, I think, was at 15. 10V, 15, right?
Yeah.
XV. 10 King of Fighters 15. That's an old school fighting game that's in the same realm of like Street Fighter, Tekken. That looks great. Forspoken, we talked about before. That's that PS5 exclusive game where it's made from Square Enix. That looks great. A lot of those games too that has been shown out that we've already seen. Metroid Dread. We've seen that Chaos game from Final Fantasy. Chaos Reigns. That one was also out there. They kind of like lowered down the chaos type of stuff. So they got the message. But overall, man, it looks pretty good. There's gonna be games that like are Japanese oriented games, a little bit weirder, a little bit quirkier, but hey, I'm just glad that we're having Japanese games out because for the longest time from me, it felt like a very niche kind of dying type of I guess part of the industry where like not a lot of people gravitated towards it, right? Like unless you're like a big Final Fantasy game or a big Metal Gear Solid game, all these other games that usually were out on the PS2 or PS3 era, weren't really there during the PS4. Maybe they were there. It's just that not enough attention were brought out
Yeah.
to them, and I felt like they were kind of being a downward trend. But from the looks of it, man, it looks like they're gonna have a good resurgence, and I'm super excited for it. That's what came out. I do recommend for people who want to know more about the games that came out during TGS to look at IGN, GameSpot, your basic, your not basic, but like your normal sites you peruse for video games, man. But that is some of the stuff that I saw that I'm super excited for. One other piece of news that I'm happy about is that even though it's the worst kept secret in the gaming industry for quite a while now, we've actually hinted on this on prior podcasts that Sony PlayStation Studios finally acquired Bluepoint Games. It was funny because they acquired another studio prior. They acquired Insomniac or another studio, and then they accidentally leaked this studio.
Oops.
Yeah, like, oh wait, no, we weren't supposed to do that, and then they took that off. And so like it was a foregone conclusion that Bluepoint Games was gonna be a PlayStation Studio. So that's cool. Bluepoint Games, of course, have remade and remastered a bunch of Sony classic games like Demon Souls that came out for PS5. That was one of the launch titles for PS5. Shadow of Colossus, Uncharted, Nathan Drake Collection, Gravity Rush Remastered. They're gonna be coming out with their own original PS5 game, and so that's gonna be cool. So I'm super excited about that. PlayStation still, or at least Sony Studios, have been on the move from really just getting up a lot of studios that they've been working with for years, man. I don't know if it's basically a what's the word I'm looking for, a kind of recalibration or possibly a response to all these other studios that are bought up by Microsoft. What do you think, man?
This is where I'm the old man in the group. I cannot keep up with JR in gaming. Give me freaking Madden, give me freaking Call of Duty, give me Mario Kart. I'm usually up on the business side, and when JR gives me these notes, I'm always kind of trying to follow with the gaming companies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And to me, it's what's really tough about gaming is until I literally like see it, I'm like, oh, that's what that is, kind of deal. So and for the viewing audience, for those who are watching the YouTube version of the show, which at this point is probably 2022 by the time I get this episode posted at my speed, there's times where I'm a little I apologize if I feel checked out. I'm just like in awe with what this guy over here to my left, right, above me, wherever he ends up when I done editing this video, at what he does with the gaming side. With that said, I have no idea. I like, this is really and truly like, we have yet to do like a legit reaction video.
Yeah.
We did this a few weeks ago. I think it was right after we were after E3. JR had me, we were recording a show, and JR had me watch a trailer on a game, and I was like, oh, this game looks really, really cool. Like I didn't know anything about it. I'm like, okay. And then he had me show me this other trailer. I'm like, oh God, this is so bad. And it was great. Like the reaction of the bad trailer was better because it's exactly what he wanted to see. He's like, you were getting an honest opinion of mine. I'm gonna have to sit down and watch some of these trailers and maybe give a more honest reaction. The Japanese style, to go back, I know that's kind of all over the place in here, but to go back to talk about the Japanese style, I don't have anything against it. It's not for me. That's why, like, when I brought up Bayonetta, I was like, something doesn't belong here. It doesn't scream Nintendo. Yeah. Microsoft, maybe. Definitely a PlayStation game. But I'm so out of the loop on gaming. I'm looking at this list and looking for something that I recognize, and I think the only thing I recognize is the word, or is the acronym RPG. But hey, with this, I don't know enough to give an opinion. I do love that the gaming industry is still healthy. It has some issues. We've talked about it before. We've talked about loot crates and digital downloads and what is it called?
Yeah,
Pay to
it's kinda
play kind of bullshit. That's
pay to
really
win.
where I kind of get into the gaming, like is that kind of side. And you can go, by the way, and I'll put the playlist at the end of this video. So if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever, go over to the YouTube channel. At the end, I'll put a link to our video game playlist where we talked about all the gaming stuff that we've talked about. We've had some great conversations about gaming.
Yeah, man. I will say too, actually, too, since you bring it up, since on a topic you probably do know of, the Apple Epic debacle.
Oh my gosh.
There actually, I will say there has been some good and some horrendously bad things being put out there. From us looking like Epic is gonna lose a lawsuit.
Yeah.
But it is because they put out that lawsuit, it has made certain precedents for Apple to say, all right, cool, we should do this, then, right?
Yeah,
to have
they've totally changed their
which is
landscape.
great.
Yeah.
Which is really great. It shows also, I forgot to put this in the notes, that Apple is actually one of the highest earners for games in the last quarter or so. And so it's mainly because, yeah, sure, we can say that, it's because of the induction of like everyone has an Apple. Apple's one of the most highly touted phones in the world. And so, it's easy to get, free to play video games on your cell phone. So great. But just having that standard, like, all right, cool. Just to, at least for me, it's good to know that in order to keep the bigger companies honest, something like this has to go out there. And once it gets kind of settled, everything in pieces, everything's on the copacetic. And don't get me wrong, Epic had done some trash stuff before in the past.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Like this, I'm not touting Epic as some, like, holier than thou company at all. No, I'm just glad that this doesn't screw over the people that work and develop to make these video games in general. So cool. But other than that, I will definitely love to bring topics like that back into again, so I can have, of course, my compatriot here really give us 2 cents about business and about like just looking the assets, like, what does this look on a wider scale types of things, because I do feel that is where my compatriot here has a lot of really,
I know how to do that.
That's what I'm saying. So other than that, man, just getting into it, I kind of put on a newer thing here for us to do, is actually things that have been released and are on to-do lists that we have not done because we've been so damn busy.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I'm looking at this list now.
I put some stuff for me.
But things that have been released and are on the to-do list. Star Wars Visions, absolutely. I see JR, Star Wars Visions is top of the list, and absolutely. I'm not an anime fan by no stretch of the imagination. But I'm willing to give it a shot.
Yeah,
because I think that though I'm not a fan of the style of cartoons, and I know it's called anime for a reason. Stop for a second. It's a cartoon, and I'm one of those guys that go like, I'm one of those guys that go, it's a graphic novel. It's a difference between a comic book. For the sake of argument, it's a cartoon, and I like the way they draw anime.
Yeah,
that part of cartoons. But I can't get into anime. I don't know why. I'm like, clang, clang, clang goes the trolley. But what I have seen of Visions is, oh my gosh, the artistic work. It reminds me, there's a couple episodes, I don't know who the artist is, and don't spoil it for me, because I want to watch it and kind of go like, I want to discover it for myself. But there's a couple of episodes that are drawn as if David Mack drew them. Yep. And those of you who don't know who David Mack is, shame on you if you've watched this show and listened to the show for the last 2 years. David Mack's an incredible artist. He actually is one of the, not a creator, but he is one of the revolutionary artists behind Jessica Jones and the Alias series. Almost as important, if not better than Brian Michael Bendis, because Bendis is an idiot. If anybody could tell, we're not Bendis fans around here. But Michael Gaydos and Brian Michael Bendis are great with Alias and great with Jessica Jones. And you can't have a Jessica Jones book without a David Mack cover. David Mack has done so many different covers for Miss Marvel. He's done stuff for Batman. He's done stuff for a lot of independents. But
Yes.
very, very good. And Echo, Echo's debut in the Marvel universe is from a Daredevil book, and the cover is done by David Mack. Going back to the original Star Wars Visions, there are some episodes that have that watercolor look to it that's very similar to David Mack's style, so that has me intrigued. I'll give it a shot. On my to-do list that I don't see here, I've never seen The Witcher. I know that's shame on me. I'm a huge Henry Cavill fan.
Yeah, man.
But on my list, watching the show Yellowstone. I've never seen it. My parents watch it. Some friends at work watch it. And I'm very intrigued to watch it. I know that it's very akin to the Sopranos style of drama and character development. And speaking of character development, you know what I've never watched? I've seen episode here, episode there, but I've never watched start from beginning to end, The Walking Dead. I've never seen The Walking Dead. Also on my to-do list that's been released for a long time, probably over a year, I've not completed Spider-Man Miles Morales. I still need to complete that game. I know, but I burned through Spider-Man so quickly that I actually got to the end and went, I did complete the game for months because I jumped over into Red Dead Redemption. That's all consuming. Finally finished it, did the add-ons, beat those, love the storyline. The writer for that game should win an Emmy or something. That's why I bought it. By the way, if you haven't bought they have a comic book version of that storyline from the Spider-Man PlayStation game. Phenomenal, right? But no, I would say those, like, just going on kind of what Jared was talking about, on the to-do list. I want to watch Visions, Yellowstone, and finish Miles Morales, Spider-Man, and maybe find Walking Dead in there somewhere. But
yeah, same here. Star Wars Visions is definitely on my to-do list. The Witcher: Nightmare of the Wolf, which actually released in September, or early September. No.
That's the cartoon though, right?
That's cartoon. That's right. No, it released early. No, it released late September. I apologize. I'm getting my days mixed up. And of course, Kena Bridge of Spirits. I've bought the game. I've yet to play the game. It's an amazing looking game. It's definitely on my to-do list. I will say too, they finally put out a small snippet release of season 2 of The Witcher with Freya Allen, finally with Geralt, and they're actually within the castle. I forgot the name of it right now. It's tipped my tongue, but the Castle Dermorin, I think, where all the Witchers of the Witchers of the Class of the Wolf, I think it was called. Yeah, Geralt's, I guess, his group or his school of the Wolf. That's where they all kind of train. That's all where they all kind of live after they're done, hunting, various monsters throughout the land. She wakes her up during a deep sleep and says, "Hey, you run," because inside the castle was a Bruxa. A Bruxa in Witcher lore is actually a vampire. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this, man. Cannot wait for it. Henry Cavill looks so good. He's always been the type of cat where, like, if he's in a type of nerdy role, he gives it 110%.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a huge nerd from top to bottom.
But that probably a bunch of stuff also I forgot to add in, which I probably have somewhere around my desk. I got to read a bunch of comics again.
Oh, I'm so behind on comics. I'm at least a year behind on comics.
Yeah, same. So I'm like, I gotta read up on a bunch of stuff. Like I buy Absolute Carnage again, but then like I forgot to read it, so I gotta reread that stuff. But other than that, man, just a bunch of video games I gotta play, a bunch of like movies I gotta watch. Star Wars Vision is definitely on top of my hit list right now. So yeah, it's just been a type of thing where like the backlog just kills you. The backlog is there and ever growing, and I need to get to it. So here's hoping with that. But other than that, my friend, that was actually pretty quick news. News and notes, man.
And I'm trying to think if I had anything else to add.
Oh, here you go. I totally forgot the big one. One of the big what the F's of the day actually is actually from, since I bring up comic books, today is, or this week is actually the first week that Marvel has switched distributors from comics, from Diamond.
Yeah, they're no
And
longer the big two are no longer with Diamond Distributors. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, they're actually with Penguin Random House. Penguin Random House, of course, is one of the big distributors in books, in just regular books that they ship to, like, your Borders or your other bookstores throughout the world and throughout here in America. Now, one of the biggest things that usually happen when changing distributors, and your distributor only ships books and doesn't give a fuck all of comics, they ship them like shit. And for what I'm seeing online, and of course through our own comic book shops here in the Valley, specifically the one on his shirt, Comic Asylum, our dear friend Chicks has pointed out that they ship them like shit. And there's actually she actually put a picture out there where there's a size comparison of like what the big box from Lunar and how they shape it, how they ship their comics very securely, to that small ass box, a very small, no cushioning whatsoever of comics that they ship out in. And like, yeah, from the responses I've seen throughout the web, through other comic book shops, through other distributors, they're saying they have this exact same thing. They're missing a bunch of comics. There's no type of like code for them to see. I'm forgetting my words right now. There's no type of like there's no tracking number for them to see where their missing comics are. A lot of their books are dinged the hell up because there's no cushioning inside. I have a little bit of insight in this because I used to work at a bookstore, and the way Random House kind of ships their comics or magazines are very similar. They basically just put they put all the magazines, basically kind of tie them up in like one of those zip ties, put them into a box, and there you go. It doesn't matter if like if there's cushioning in it, and they put their name, like, hey, this thing was shipped from this person, and they put it in the box, and there you go. Sometimes you get all these magazines all dinged up, but it's a magazine. No one cares about a magazine. But when it comes to comic books, for those who are avid collectors like you and I, for those who have a stake, quote unquote, in this game, it is a horrible look. It kind of, I'll go ahead if you haven't thought about it.
Well, in DC and Lunar was a travesty, and it's taken over a year for them to get a little bit better. And it's tough because you're making a gigantic change overnight. And I am but what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my goodness. I'm brain farting right now. Giving them the benefit of the doubt, but you can't do stuff like that. The one thing that Lunar didn't do horribly was shipping intact. They were late constantly, some cases a week or so late, but they were never damaged, or very rarely. Because Lunar was a comic distributor. They just did not distribute any of the big ones. They didn't do DC, they didn't do Marvel, they didn't do Image or anything. So when you're right out of the gate shipping things that are completely paper, like they are hardback, you're gonna run into issues, and so they've got to nip that in the bud. But I'm willing to give them benefit of the doubt, because like I said, they're the only way you can get better is by making mistakes. Unfortunately, comic books is a commodity, and you can't, it's not like, oh, I made a boo-boo on that shipping that pallet of towels. Ship them back and we'll reship them. No, comic books is if anything, by having these damaged books, you've now created scarcity, which actually could drive the price up, which is good, I guess, kind of good for collectors. But that's rough. That's rough to get out of the gate, and you're dropping the ball shipping wise.
Yeah, especially because like we all know the first of the month to the first Wednesday of the month are the new releases, like the very full-on new releases.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You get your number ones, you get like the high quantity of comics that are coming out. I don't know what's actually coming out this week, but like you're also looking at, do they also ship the high variants this way too?
Yeah.
You're talking about and like you're not talking about like people who'd buy them, you're talking about people who already bought them in the sense of like the comic book shops. They paid a certain amount of money in order for them to get their comic books in at least relatively great condition, right? You pay a certain
Yeah.
you pay a certain upkeep because one, they don't know. I don't know if they have if the comic book shops have any type of distinct discounts anymore, like they had with Diamond, right?
Yeah.
Before with Diamond, you get like anywhere between 40% to 50% off, maybe 65% if you've been with them long enough. What's it like now with going on to Penguin Random House? Do they have those same advantages? Do they have those same discounts? Or are they paying full price for fucked up comics? So like that's granted, yeah, I'll give them benefit of doubt. It's the first go around, but like they gotta change it real freaking quick because guess what? Next week shouldn't be the same thing. There should be at least some level of backlash to have someone at Marvel say, "Oh crap, we gotta go to distributors and say we can't pack them like this.
Yeah.
Why can't we pack them like this? Well, one, we paid you way too damn money, way too damn much,
Funny.
to exclusively ship with you guys. So you should do it this certain way." And one, I'm not giving Penguin Random House a lot of slack because one, they're one of the biggest distributing companies in the country.
Yeah.
They ship to they ship the big boy, like hardcover copies of books, and they ship everything, nearly everything, to like to distributor to your freaking border not borders, but your Barnes and Nobles, to your other bookstores around the world, around the US. It's not their first go around, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's, for me, I give them a little bit of slack, but that slack is gone next week because they're a big enough company for them to get their crap together and say, all right, cool, we should really ship these properly. And not only that, but ship them all correctly, because there's still a bunch of boxes that are missing from a lot of these comic book shops. Like, hey, yeah, I got half of my shipment in. Where's the other half? Type of
Yeah.
stuff, right? So again, I know we talked about this when DC first shipped to Lunar, and they did have some packaging stuff as well that they needed to fix. And so I understand it's an ongoing type of scenario, but man, it's gonna be tough for a lot of us collectors to like want to really, oof, take a step on should I take this little step on Marvel and to see, to get this high $100 variant, you know, and coming into me in good condition type of stuff,
Yeah.
So, I mean, granted, it's doesn't really matter in it's not that big of a deal in the big scheme of things.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it might be a dip for Marvel in the sense of like sales, but yeah, but in that sense too, because any type of dip for Marvel, in comic books means there's a dip in comic books for your comic book shops. That's not a good thing.
No.
So here's hoping they get that stuff resolved pretty quickly. I'm gonna be talking to Chick. I'm hopefully gonna talk to George or to Sid if hopefully he's back. He should be back, right? Sid should be back, I think.
He was supposed to be coming back here pretty soon. So I would love to pick his brain, because we are entering in, we are diving head first into the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Phase 4, which I know is going to directly result in some good sales for all of our comic book stores when they try to pick up those back issues and those key issues having to do with great storylines. And I know one of the things that's going to be selling pretty good here is that Hawkeye series from just a few years ago. But what we've seen a resurgence from over the last year or so has been Shang Chi, the master of kung fu in the Marvel universe. And of course, he got his big theatrical release last month, finally, after being delayed along with Black Widow for over a year. And we have now seen, though Black Widow was more so a prequel and kind of a bridge between Civil War and Infinity War. We finally got to see Phase 4 kick off. And with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, this is, other than Spider-Man Far From Home, this is our first big time cinematic glimpse into the post-blip era, and or should actually no more along the lines of the post in-game era. So really and truly, from a storyline standpoint, from a chronological standpoint, we've only seen 2 movies come out after in-game, and that would be Spider-Man Far From Home, and now Shang Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Remember, Black Widow, though it takes place in Phase 4, tells a story that kind of really involves Phase 3. So that's where we're going with now. Falcon the Winter Soldier takes place after Endgame. WandaVision takes place after Endgame. So does Loki. We know that Hawkeye is going to as well, but from a theatrical standpoint and introducing a new character, Shang-Chi was the first one. Like JR, who was a lot more trepidatious about this movie than I was. I was excited. I like Simu Liu. I've enjoyed his comedic likeness in Kim's Convenience. I like the fact that he, as an actor and a self-proclaimed nerd, took a now famous proactive approach on Twitter to try to gain notoriety with Mr. Feige. I was stoked about this movie, and I was really, when they announced, I was really hoping that they were going to use this as an opportunity to bring not only Shang-Chi, but also Iron Fist, Danny Rand, to the big screen, which we know didn't happen. I know there was a lot of rumors that it was going to happen, and now we know. I think that Danny Rand is going to get rebooted or whatever. But I was excited about this movie. I know that leading up to it, JR was very iffy about it. I mean, you went as far, JR said, this is going to be Marvel's first flop.
I did.
I think at one point you said, if I misquoted you, I apologize. But there were times where you were like, this is not going to be good.
No, absolutely. I was very much in the realm of like, oh, they're doing what Marvel is doing, what Disney had tried to do with Mulan, type of thing, where like it was very much Disney's attempt to get into the Chinese market, and try to either conquer or satiate, the hunger for Chinese heroes, type of thing, right? And
which I can understand.
I get that, but like, if for me, understanding a little bit of Chinese government, a little bit of the Chinese it's funny being a minority in it's gonna sound like a tangent, I know, but like, it's a funny being a minority in America, understanding the type of racial boundaries here, at the same time not knowing that they're kind of the same when regard to being compared to other Asians in Asia. In Asia, I'm Southeast Asian, Filipino, right? Loud and proud, and even in that sense, there's a certain hierarchy, and those it's been widely known, and for a lot of Asians that Chinese think that the best, in type of racial standards when it comes to Asians.
To our Chinese friends, I don't necessarily disagree, but I will side with my co-host that Filipinos are the greatest Asians.
I mean, like, it's always the big three, in particular with Asia. It's gonna be Chinese, Japanese, and Koreans, right?
It really is.
And they're the ones that have been marketed out there to look prim and proper. They are your model. They're your model minorities, right? Granted, even though I am Asian, South Asians are looked upon. I'm pretty sure we've said this before multiple times. I've said this multiple times before on the podcast, that Southeast Asians are looked as the jungle, quote unquote, Asians, or the ones that look like, oh, they're minorities in Asia. And understanding that concept, going into what
that was well skirted, because we have another way of saying it. We're not going to say it on the podcast.
of course, you're not going to say it on the podcast. I would love to say it, but
it's going to rub. It's not wrong, but it doesn't need to be said publicly.
It's one of those instinct inherent biases that even Asians have towards other Asians. I get that. It's just how we are. It's just how people are. But knowing that knowledge for me, I knew what America was trying to do. Right? They're trying to get that Asian market. They're not trying to get Southeast Asian market. They're trying to get Chinese market because they're going to be the growing economy in the world.
They're working on. They're going to bring the Filipino. What's the Filipino character's name?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't get me wrong. That's going to be in there. It's just that you need to get the Chinese first.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing, right? You need to get the Chinese first. But knowing China and knowing the ongoing and ever growing like type of fervor, you know how this whole thing where people say in America that if you are a how do I put this correctly? What's that one word that a lot of minorities use against white people? You're a
privileged.
Not privileged, but the other one. If you love America, you are a
nationalist.
A nationalist, right? Everyone in China is a nationalist type of thing, right? And there's no one to kind of debunk them in that sense. Everyone, not okay. I can't say everyone. Not almost the ever-growing ideal in China is that they're nationalists. They love China. Everyone loves China. You don't love China, you won't be seen ever again.
Because they're a communist country.
That's exactly.
We love China.
So exactly. That's what I'm saying, right? And so that's how it goes. And so that's why I'm thinking where Marvel went to. And that was my mindset, right? It's gonna be a bad movie because they're trying to piece to that Marvel is trying to piece to that the same way that Disney did with Mulan.
Yeah.
By saying that, oh, well, yeah, they did a lot of tropes and a lot of fucking, like, what the fuck did you put that shit into? We have to know about honor and all this stuff. Like, bro, you said honor too many damn times, bro. Stop it. It's
they did say it a lot in the cartoon version, though.
It's not necessary. Not every time the cartoon version said honor is usually because of at least something stated in that sense, right? Yeah. And granted, like the things that were done Mulan were kind of like a whole different topic and different day. But that's what I thought going into Shang-Chi. They're gonna do the exact same stuff.
And you're
going there.
Probably not wrong.
Yeah. Doing it, and to a certain regard, it was kind of in there, right? But it was its own nondescript story. It did have a lot of history, in the sense, not history, but it did have a lot of like a lot of influences from comics. It did have a lot of like influence in the sense of like family. That
there's a lot Asian, of a lot of Asian, and it wasn't even necessarily directly though. The movie takes place in China.
Yeah.
I think that there was a lot of the, for lack of a better term, tropes of and mythos of Asian culture. It wasn't even, like I said, though it took place in China. What I did like about it that it was concerning was, like I said, it was going to turn into a big old propaganda film for the Chinese.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, and this ties into what we're talking about. Right off the bat, it pays tribute to the Chinese cinema in the form of its fighting style. Absolutely. Yes. There's no denying that. And I will say that JR and I have absolutely no problem with that. Go right ahead.
Yeah.
You want to rip off Jackie Chan for 2 hours?
Happy.
I'm down.
Yeah.
Which it did. What did you say? He's the choreographer?
This man right here. Brad Allen. That's in the black.
And that's Jackie, isn't it?
Jackie. Yeah, this is the film gorgeous. Yeah, this is the film right here, gorgeous. Oh, this is again the rest in peace, of course.
He passed away before during the filming, right?
After the filming, it was something else. After filming, and all Shang-Chi was actually dedicated to Brad Allen. You know, the man has a great dude. He's a legend in his own right. He has been casted so many times. He has been casted as fight coordinator so many times in all these legendary films. He's one of the guys from Jackie Chan's original stunt team. Not original, but like he was not the original.
Pretty damn close.
Back in the 1960s. Yeah, 1970s. But he was after I think 1970s when the Hong Kong cinema really blew up. He was brought in. Absolutely. So definitely props to him, man. We lost a giant in that regard. But then after that, man, the fight scenes were great, well choreographed. It was very Jackie Chan. Very Jackie Chan. a lot of it was great shit in that, but like, and I'm happy for that. I'm absolutely happy for that. The way the movie started, the way the movie paid homage to a lot of Hong Kong cinema, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
Mm-hmm.
in regards to a lot of Jackie Chan films. It had regards to a lot of like what's the other one? Actually a lot of the Shaolin films too, Shaolin monks films back in the day. The for the references, for the references for those who are in the hip hop Wu-Tang style, where they got it from, Shaolin. What's it called that they reference a lot? What Wu-Tang referenced a lot? Shaolin and something.
God,
I
I
forgot
can't
what
think
it's
of
called.
Scott. I can't
Yeah,
recall.
yeah. I should. But yeah, there was a lot of references to a lot of great Hong Kong cinema, and I absolutely freaking love that. The story also took place in San Francisco, where it really, I was hoping would delve deep into a lot of like what it really feels like to be an Asian American, right? To
Yeah.
be not just Asian, but be in America with that type of I guess onion, I guess, within us, right? That other layer trap put onto us, being American. What's it like to be an Asian American, not understanding your history of where we came from here in America? Granted, not a lot of that has been put on the story, but it was good to see, at least, to at least show that we should not be afraid of our heritage.
And they
Be
did. They
Yeah.
talked about that. Like, that's one of the things I liked about was when Shang Chi.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get into this, we're not obviously not gonna be able to do a watch along and give you a full-on breakdown, but we're gonna hit the bullet points, what we liked, what we didn't like, and this is gonna be quick.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite scenes was when Shang-Chi, Simu's character, comes over to pick up Katie after being out all night partying, doing stereotypical Asian things like karaoke. But it was just done so perfectly and tastefully by Simu and Aquafina. And I am by no stretch of the imagination an Aquafina fan. And by the way, we're not sponsored by Yeti yet. But as I
Not yet.
logo out.
Yes, that is a 1 gallon.
Subtle.
That's fine.
They come back over to Katie's house and she's having breakfast with Katie's mom and her grandma, and they're talking in Mandarin, and they're talking about family, and I've always loved that, and I love picking JR's brain about his family, and I see the relationship that he has with his sister, and he talks about my dad and I, we cook, when I love him and his dad's cooking, stuff like that, and I just love hearing the stories, and I love talking to Chick and Javel about family and stuff. Because my family was a lot like that. It was, to quote Dom, it's about family.
Oh God, here we go.
Yeah, I went there. But no, I was the same way. I was raised, my mom's dad, it was about family. It's family first, and it was about traditions. And my grandfather's side of the family, my mom's side of the family, came from Spain. And it was just taught from the get-go. It was about family, very similar to a lot of the Asian culture. You take care of the elderly, and hardworking and stuff like that. So I really I enjoyed that part because it reminded me of, albeit my grandfather was white, and so was his mother, but I'm just 2-3 generations removed from a very dark, I know the Spanish are not super dark skinned, but a darker skinned family. But I really enjoyed that aspect. I really enjoyed the family. That was one of my favorite scenes. Was, I know it was kind of jokey at times, but I loved when they were speaking in Mandarin and they were talking about family and stuff like that. So again, I like that. Also, and again, not to be stereotypical, but it is what it is. Also hints out about what it's like to be an Asian in America. Was, in some cases, like even in San Francisco, where there is a heavy Asian influence, is it's still, and Jared's gonna be like, huh? He's actually gonna admit this. It's still a white man's world, and Katie and Sean are valets. They're almost kind of, for lack of a better term, not taken seriously. And Katie ends up being, her, as her character develops throughout the movie, becomes she has a lot to offer. Sean won't show his cards. He already knows what he has to offer. He just doesn't want to show his cards. And they're just fine living the life on tips and minimum wage, doing literally grunt work, driving other people, rich bastards, cars. And those were two poignant scenes, because they did, like, exactly what JR said, is it tells the story of what it's like to be an Asian American, doing in some cases shitty ass jobs that nobody else wants to do, trying to have fun with it like Katie and Sean do. And then at the end of the day, it's all about family. And then you see Aquafina, who's like, oh God, just like, Mom, leave me alone. Like, but Sean is respectful, and he treats the grandma and the mom with respect, and but at the same time having fun with his friends. So
one of actually those things too, that I really loved about what the movie did, is that they didn't shy away from the fact that they can speak different languages and not be weird, right? They didn't
absolutely.
have to.
It was natural. It was
natural. They didn't have to Mulan it type of thing, right? Where they all had to speak English to certain regards, even though we'll talk about Mulan some other day. One of the biggest pratfalls I have were like a lot of Asian movies, or they try to have some type of Western appeal, is that they have to speak American, or they have to speak not English, American. Bigger difference. even for those who don't know American, we have the slangs. We're the one that came up with these terms, even though of course the King's English is the proper English. We're talking American. And so when a lot of the pratfalls that a lot of Asian people or Asian companies try to do, is that when they try to be adopted by Western influences, they speak American. I'm happy that this doesn't go that way, in the sense of like keeping this tone American. No, they went into Mandarin. They spoke Mandarin. It was fine for them, and they said, hey, for the viewers, for me, hey, if you want to understand this, read the subtitles. It's fine. We're not gonna speak in English for you. My mother, the mother of Shang Chi, she spoke Mandarin. She's gonna continue to speak Mandarin, even though she did speak English every now and then. But like, the poignant moments is that they spoke Mandarin. They spoke their language, and it's not on them for you to understand. It's for you to catch up. I love that aspect. I love that part of it. You had a point?
Oh, and I was going back because I know that Marvel has done a bit of both in the comics. There are times when you have a language like the Chinese language, like even modern Mandarin. It's obviously for those as from Western culture, from American culture, it's a lot of icons, hieroglyphics, symbols.
Yes.
Okay. It's not the King's, as JR says, the King's English. It's not the alphabet that we know. It's not ABCD. It is symbols, and symbols may represent a letter. They may represent a word. They represent an entire sentence. And I know at times, even when Stan Lee was editor-in-chief for Marvel Comics, there were times with maybe not necessarily Shang-Chi, but Asian characters, that they would put the symbols in there and then put the little asterisk and have the translation underneath. They still kind of do that. What they'll do now in kind of a similar to with Deadpool, where they do a bubble. It's like Deadpool. It's a red bubble or a yellow bubble, and then Gwenpool, it's a pink bubble. But they'll put a little asterisk at the bottom. They'll write it out in English, but they'll put it in, and he goes, we wanted to write this in Mandarin. Just assume it was spoken in Mandarin. So Marvel has done a lot to try in the comic books to help. What's the phrase I'm looking for? Expand disbelief. And so I had no problem doing the subtitles. I was reading to my son. He was he got to enjoy the pictures.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, Jake, this is what Wen Wu is saying. So
Yeah, which I was cool with that, right? Even with my even my bias against like the Chinese government and that propaganda mess, right? I'm happy that they did that because to me this spoke of like this spoke of like childhood because I grew up watching Hong Kong cinema films. So cool, happy, good for me. That's a good one. That's a plus one for me from me. And so also just going the assets, but like understanding that I'm happy that they really try to pinpoint on culture, like the
yeah,
differences in culture in that sense. We're like yeah, the dead to Asians, right, is a different symbolic thing. They're still here with you.
yeah,
Period. And so that's I remember that exact same thing growing up that we would always leave a plate for those who left us. Always leave a plate for your grandma, for your grandpa, for your nanang, for your tatang, for those who are left behind because you know every time we have a family gathering, we would make great big amounts of food and one of the first if not first or second plates would always be to those who passed and we leave in the corner, we put a candle out and they would we would have that food for them to eat. And so it was very much like yeah, the dead are honored different ways in different cultures, but for
yeah.
us it's a much more for Asians, right, specifically for me, for Filipinos, it's honored in a way where they're still here with us celebrating. They're
Yeah.
still here with us, and it's always good to leave a plate out for them. And that really struck me like, yeah, that we view that differently here in America. I was hoping they go into that type of culture more. One, of course, I have this on my list. What does it do wrong? What did the movie do wrong for you? It didn't really heavily talk about the other aspects of being Asian American, understanding the history and being, and having that power struggle of like, what who do I be? Do I be the American me, or do I have like some at least parts of my heritage for the Asian me? And growing all with that in America, they didn't have that. They did have parts of that in
Parts
here.
of it, but not. Yeah, I knew what you mean
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, because a lot of it, had to go back with the origin story. You had to go back to this ongoing thing of who his father was, and I get that. Hopefully, they'll make that in the second or third movie. We have time,
Yeah,
basically.
and
I'm
there's
glad we have
definitely going to
time.
be obviously a second movie, which we'll get
Yes.
to here in the latter half of this review.
Yeah.
What did I think they did wrong? Not a
Mhm.
lot,
Yeah.
but was, and I get it. It's a crutch that a lot of Marvel movies do,
Yeah.
and they did a better job at hiding it in this movie because of the acting and the writing.
Yeah.
When you have to set up a subplot by explaining how you're going to, basically it'd be like explaining the joke and then it doesn't make any more sense because you had to explain it.
Yeah.
In the movie, towards the end, before the big battle, they're walking along this wall that tells the story of
Yeah.
basically the bat dragons or whatever.
Yeah.
And they have to tell that story for you to understand in about 45 minutes when they open up that freaking gate and all these like
Yeah.
bat monsters come out.
Yeah.
Oh, but what they did with it was, and it's what I love about Asian culture, most specifically Chinese, Japanese, and maybe a little bit in kind of in Thai, is their the storytelling,
Yeah.
the legends. Some of them are, and again, for those of you, we do have an Asian audience. For those that know, it's 100% bullshit, but it's fun. It's like telling
Yeah.
us, like us Americans telling the story of Paul Bunyan or John Henry. Um, the way they told the story and set up that subplot for the or set up the plot for the conclusion, the big conclusive fight, was perfectly done because it was done in the vein of
Yeah.
auntie or grandma telling the legend of the dragon and stuff like that. It was done because I know I have friends, I have family that is Japanese that would sit down with their grandma and their grandpa and say, grandma, tell me this story. And they would tell it just like the characters did in the movie. Let's tell
Yeah.
you about why this gate is bad. Let me tell you about this story. And it was, and again, it's a job well done by the director, the writer,
Yeah.
and the acting that they were able to execute a crutch that a lot of movies do, most specifically Marvel, about having to explain the inevitable big plot point to the movie. But it was done so well because it's done in the vein of, let me tell you about our history. Let me tell you about these legends. Let me tell you where we come from. And what I love about Asian culture is that great storytelling. And I love the legends. I love the folklore behind the different cultures, and not just Chinese, not just Japanese, not just Filipino, not just Korean, but Thai. We did a lot of different things. I'm trying to think. I'm just drawing a blank on all the other possible Asian countries.
Yeah.
I love the legends, and it's not for entertainment. It's I soak it all in as history. Some of it is folklore. Some of it is bullshit. Some of it's tall tales. Some of it is grandma told me this story at bedtime and I believe it, but I love it. I love it. And I did like that, how they handled that sort of subplot.
Yeah, it is absolutely a retelling of certain parts of Asian history, in a sense of Asian like folklore. Absolutely. A lot of I don't want to go too much of a tangent. It might be a hot take, but it's funny how it is easy to pinpoint and put out that a lot of the Asian culture or a lot of Asian beliefs are absolutely true bullcrap. It's hard to believe in dragons. It's hard to believe in very dignified lion-looking dogs, right?
Yeah.
But you can't talk about a man who was raised from the dead 3 days later.
Yeah. I remember my daughter one time we watched a movie and she asked me if dragons are real. I don't know. I've never seen one. I can't tell you that they do exist. I can't tell you that they don't exist.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like we all have to understand that everyone loves to tell a story. Period. Everyone loves to tell a story, and some more stories are more grandiose than some, and more grandiose than others. And so the way that I look at a lot of Asian literature and Asian folklore is that you have to take it for what it is, man. This is the type of stuff where it brought people to have either a certain regard for the folklore and their heritage and what that meant to the people, right? Or others that just thought like, oh, that's just fucking crazy bullshit, right?
Yeah.
We also looked at in all aspects of aspects of the history as well. But regardless of that, going back onto topic hand, man, one of the things that it did right, I'm pretty sure we did what it does right for you, but like I got to just say it again, man. The action scenes were amazing.
Yeah.
Every act, specifically for me, even though the bus scene was really good, really good, kind of like precipice to start up in there. The fight scene, I watched the movie twice now,
and I've only seen it the one time. I want to see it. I definitely want to see it again.
I watched it twice. I watched it once here with my family, and I watched it in Vancouver, Portland, Oregon, with my other family. And so this fight scene when they're in the skyscraper or the scaffolding, right?
Oh my god, yeah, absolutely.
The first time, like, I can't see shit, right? He's like, what the hell? They filmed this horribly. The second time, the reason why is because my movie theater was horribly lit.
Yeah.
And I watched it looked so much better. Like I could see everything correctly. It screamed of Jackie.
I was gonna say it
of Jackie.
It screamed of Rush Hour 2. What's it called? There was a Rumble in the Bronx, I think, had a scene like that.
Operation Condor with Jackie Chan. That's another movie. Or no, Jackie Chan's First Strike. That's what I'm thinking of.
That's what I'm thinking of too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The second they went outside the window and Shang Chi or Sean goes after goes to help out. I think goes to help out Aquafina. And starts getting in these. I was just like, and it stopped. It ceased being a typical, this is just gonna be another Marvel fight scene, and they're just gonna change it onto the side of a building because we haven't done this before. No, it's exactly what JR said. It screamed of Jackie Chan. It
Yeah.
paid homage to me, JR. By that, I know you could. I know you can't do it.
Yeah.
Is what I liked about Jackie, and even in Rush Hour, which was a huge blockbuster movie for him to do.
Yeah.
It had a big budget.
Yeah.
The raw take of them being it. I would love to see the outtakes of Jackie when he fought on the side of the building, because they did a scaffolding fight with the bamboo and stuff like that. I would love to see the raw footage of that shoot, because I'm still 100% convinced that there was no green screen, there was no blue screen, that it was Jackie on the side of a building on this thing. Whereas Simu, it's CGI. It was on probably on some scaffolding on a soundstage in Atlanta, but which is still equally as impressive.
Yeah.
But to be that's the only thing I was like, they got to me in that scene. The only thing they got wrong was at times, even though they were probably on actual scaffolding, to me, I because it's so overly CG'd, I'm like, it's a fake building. They're not really on the side of a building.
No, it would be too dangerous.
And I get it. I totally get why. And I'm not going to nitpick, but I'm going to nitpick that would be my only complaint about that scene. It was like, it slightly takes me out of it, because it's like, okay, it's on the side of a building. It's not really on the side of a building.
Yeah, because like one dangling Aquafina off of 100-foot skyscraper is not really the greatest idea anyway. 1 second. My camera's kind of like messed up right now.
I'm sorry. Tom Cruise did it in Mission Impossible 7.
Well, Aquafina didn't get paid as much as Tom Cruise, though.
She should. I'm going to say it. I'm not a fan of her. She should. I liked her in Crazy Rich Asians. I liked her in this.
Great.
Start paying her some money.
She was good, man. And a lot of those scenes were freaking amazing to me. One of the best things for the one, I cannot give this man any. I can't give him enough credit, dude. Tony Way, the actor who, not Andy Lau, was different. Andy Lau's a different actor, but Tony, he carried the movie for me. The father,
Wenwu.
Anyway, Wenwu, he carried this shit, man. It felt very, because he was that off, like you think going in, and I kind of like what Marvel's doing with this recent trends of like, is he a villain of really like your black and white villain? Is he really the bad guy? Everyone, and it's gotten that gray area of like, yeah, he done some horrible freaking things, but this version of him, he's doing for a reason. And so you see Tony, or you see Wenwu, he's depicted as, he's an evil guy who is the head of an organization that wants to kill everybody. But then you see the unraveling of him and who he really was, the love of his life, the mother of Shang Chi, and the mother of, I forgot the sister's name. When?
Xialing,
like how
Xialing.
Yeah, like how they were just it is Tony Leung. Yeah, Tony Leung, and how he was just, they're normal. They were a normal parents. Like it felt very, I gotta tell you, I took my parents to watch this, man. They cried their eyes out. It was the cutest thing, because they really understood the story of this. We're like, yeah, you do things for your kids, you do things for those you love, right? There's only so much power. There's only so much that can drive a man. Right? There's only so much power that can drive a man to do what he wants to do until he's given a better purpose. And for him, it was putting down the 10 rings and becoming a dad in this sense, right? Like power is great, but what matters after that? What is your legacy after that type of thing?
Yeah.
And so one of those things that really attributed to being a really great family movie for me was that it was just like, dang, man, like what do you give a man who has all this power when you take everything away from him, type of stuff. Specifically the Bedrock, his wife.
Yeah.
Right. And you see this transition of like him just totally driving his kids, kind of away from him. And that final fight scene where it was him and Sean, Sean's like, we needed you. And you trained me to be a killer. We needed you, type of thing, man. And so, like the family stuff hit it for me. It was great. Tony fucking carried it. I wanted him to be in more of this shit. I wanted a lot of the Hong Kong like legends to be in like something this marketable, type of
Yeah.
stuff, right? I'm not just saying that the past movie that he's done isn't as marketable, but like it's Tony, man. It's Tony Leung. He is a guy who's been in it for a minute. He's one of the heads of like Chinese cinema. He's one of the legends of Chinese cinema. And so just him being in this type of movie and giving him the respect that this fucking man deserves is amazing. And I hope freaking Donnie Yen can finally give that same comeuppance as well. They gave him parts in, of course, Star Wars. For those who don't know, Donnie Yen was in Star Wars, Rogue One. You know, the Force with me. I'm one with the Force.
Yeah.
The blind. He's not swordsman, but he's a blind master.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping they give him more props, even though he's turning 60 as well. Or he's already 60. But yeah, just like I really, Marvel needs a lot more people that know how to fight, because when you know how to fight and you are given correct fight scenes with a Marvel budget, they look like Shang Chi. They look like that. And I gave my dude here a bunch of like all these lists of like fight scenes that he should look at, right? And we should compare and contrast and see where the influences come from. One of them was this scene right here, gorgeous, right? Well, for me, possibly one of the.
Oh, I lost your mic, dude.
How about now? You hear me now?
There you go. I don't know what the hell happened.
What did I cut off on?
You started talking about gorgeous.
Okay, so one of those fight scenes was this right here, gorgeous. For me, one of the best fight scenes of all time, of just raw speed, proper dueling, two head-to-head combatants. Man, these guys right here in that fight scene, to me, was beautiful. Was amazing. This fight scene came from the movie Gorgeous, which was actually a rom-com. It's weird. Like Jackie Chan plays this, very like head of a company, millionaire, he not playboy, but like he's like Tony Stark, but not really Tony Stark.
Yeah,
but he can fight, type of thing. And if he was able to continue fighting, he would be one of the best in the world. And so this other company was trying to do a hostile takeover of his company, and in order to kind of just like stop that, they fought. It was weird. But I loved it, and the fight scenes there were amazing. And a lot of the fight scenes there in that one, I also gave him also, I think, Ip Man, the very first movie of Ip Man, where it was, oh my goodness, where it was Ip Man versus like 10 Japanese masters, where after the Japanese during World War II, after the Japanese conquered that part of Asia or China he was in order to fight for food, he had to take on like multiple masters. And so that stuff was crazy, man. I'm just hoping for more of like that, because that's what actual fight scenes look like for me, for like really combative, really concise, wide lens. Don't take your eyes off them. No shaky hand cam, always a steady lens, no cuts, just they're fighters, so let them fight, type of stuff. So I'm hoping for more of that to come out.
Real quick, the other thing that I didn't like about the movie was I was super invested in the character leading up to the movie, and I felt kind of robbed in how the character was dealt with, and that is the character of Death Dealer. And for those who don't know who Death Dealer is, he's the guy that was wearing the kabuki mask throughout the movie. Andy Lee portrayed the character, never was unmasked in the movie. There was a lot of people that were speculating who the Death Dealer would be. I know that the character in the comic books, I don't believe was ever unmasked either, but is still, maybe not still, but it's a real character. And he was very unceremoniously killed. He was one of the souls that was taken by the big
From the first
bat,
souls,
the big bat dragon thing, whatever.
Soul suckers.
The soul suckers, so that was my other thing too, just going through it. Other than that, any movie that gives us Michelle Yeoh is A+ in my book. She is still my woman crush Wednesday. I love her. She is gorgeous. She is talented. She is so believable in everything that she does. You look at her and she doesn't look a day over like 22. And I say that hopefully that she's listening and what's up. But you look at her and she's really she's
She's in her 60s, I think.
Born in 1962, so she's coming up.
She's gonna be 60.
She's gonna be 60. Doesn't look it, by the way.
Yeah.
And she is so talented, and she is so believable that if you sat there and you told her in the movie, the character, oh yeah, she's 32, you'd believe it. You told her she was 62, you'd believe it. Just anything she touches is golden.
Yeah.
I thought she was fantastic as the aunt in the movie. The sister to was it Fala Shen's Lee, who was Wenwu his wife, Tony Luong. Tony Luong. Sorry, I apologize. Yeah. And I said anything she does is great. Talking about Michelle Yeoh, I did like Fala Shen. I did like that scene between Lee and Wenwu, where we thought that maybe that was going to be our introduction to the Iron Fist, but it ends up being that Lee was like a garden, kind of a tree guardian kind of. So she was kind of like that forest guardian kind of look. I love that costume. There's actually a Funko Pop of her in that costume that I want desperately and cannot find. I just got in my recent Funko box. I got a limited edition of Shang Chi and of and I think I got no, it's not the kid. It's Xialing, the sister.
Oh, sister, yeah, okay.
But yeah, I like that. I'm just kind of going through just from what I remember the movie. The bus scene was great, and how it introduced Razor Fist. And I like that we didn't get he was bitten by a radioactive spider kind of storyline. Yeah. It was always there. And I think that was kind of a pleasant surprise, was like, just like Katie was like, whoa, dude, like, you know how to kick some ass. We as an audience did, they're like, hold up, time out. We knew where this movie was going. We knew that Shang-Chi we knew that Sean was Shang-Chi and that we were going to see this guy kick some ass. But wait a minute. This dude knew how to kick ass the whole time and you didn't tell us. I liked that reveal. And we knew it was coming, but we didn't know that's the way it was going to come. Yeah. So I like that part. And I like the Fight Club. I will say I was disappointed, but it makes more sense now. That the Fight Club that his sister runs, spoiler if you haven't seen the movie, was not in Madripoor like we thought. Yeah, it's actually in China. It's in it's not Beijing. It's a bigger city in China. I just can't remember.
I forget. Yeah, they said it multiple times, so I just forget.
Yeah, it's on the postcard. Yeah, it's on the postcard.
Yeah, but yeah,
and I love the Fight Club aspects. Like there was different little hidden characters. We saw that one of the Black Widows that was released in Black Widow was there. We saw that Wong is doing some Fight Club. Yeah. We saw the Abomination for the first time in 12 years.
Abomination is also, that same Abomination has also been slated to be in She-Hulk too.
In She-Hulk, yes. And so cool. Also rumored that may also be making multiple new appearances, and it's full on Blonsky. It's and the guy I can't think of the actor's name, is returning to voice Abomination. So
this is good.
Super excited about that.
Overall, just it's
the action scenes were off the charts.
It was really good. I love that the twists in the film too were given via like the twist. Most of the twists in the film were given via back like flashback type of stuff, right? Yes. Where we first come to think like, oh, this is horrible father that wanted to train his kids to be assassins, all this stuff, right? We come to find out that like, yes, he still did that stuff, but like it was one of those things where like they were a normal family for a good 10 plus years. Exactly. He put the rings down. His dad's like, yeah, I want to change for her and for my kids, right? Because this is an ongoing thing too within Asian philosophy, that your deeds will come back to get you, type of stuff, right? That you do feel a certain amount of karma, right? And even though that karma cost his wife, one of the biggest things that wasn't said in that is that men specifically, they can't let that shit go, type of stuff, right? Specifically in Asian culture, they can't let that go. But one of the things that could have been said is that that was the deal, that the mother, that the mother paid for the debts of the father. What the father should have done was like, okay, this happened, we have to grieve for her, and I just gotta raise my kids, right? Type
Yeah.
of stuff. And but then he went back to that scene, and it was a tough scene for me in the sense of like where he brought his son to go kill the fuckers, right? To see like where the big boss was in order to do that, because like it, I'm pretty sure in most homes too, but like the son would always want to would try to do right by the father.
Yeah.
And the son, for me, like when I saw that, like, yeah, if when my dad asked me like, we're gonna try to get your mother's we're trying to get your mother's killer, back, would you want to join me? Like, yeah, I'm in. It's one of those things for me, like he wasn't, even though he wasn't fully, comprehending the situation, he also wasn't Shang-Chi also wasn't clear of it too. He wanted to help out his dad.
Yeah.
That was one of the bigger twists for me. Like, yeah, he chose this life too. Initially, he chose it, and like he went into it. You see the number of fights that he the number of training he has done, all the other things that he's constantly going through, the the discipline he's going through with the death dealer, the constant the constant struggle of being Asian and wanting to do right by your parents, or seek their
Yeah.
approval by the stuff, right? And so you get angry, all that shit. I get that whole thing. So just again, man, the whole economy of the family being broken down, the Asian family being broken down in the film, right? And understanding that, like, yeah, the dad just needed help, man. The dad needed help. He grieved. He couldn't grieve in that time. He did not know how to grieve properly. And the only thing that helped him kind of go through this process was just to basically rise up his empire again and kind of just establish domain. And that's crazy to think about. And also kind of crazy to understand that, that those 10-20 years that he had with her are nothing compared to the 1,000 years he's already lived at that point.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Also, one of the cool things too, some of the other actors in that film, the old guy that we saw during when they went to the village, the older general that kind of like ordered Aquafina around, all that stuff. Him,
Yeah.
he was actually an original stunt coordinator, or he worked with Bruce Lee way back in the day.
That's right. That's who it was. Okay, I remember you telling me that story.
Cool. Yeah, man. I was like, damn, they got some legends in here, bro. And so, but overall, man, the movie was really good.
Absolutely.
There wasn't a lot of Chinese superiority type of thing that you usually find in a lot of like action films in general, or not just, or a lot of like Asian superiority. You have a tendency, for me, I've seen that a lot in my time growing up.
The cool thing about it was, other than name dropping the location,
yeah,
there was really no mention of China.
Yeah,
that it was, we know that this is taking place in China, though it wasn't filmed there, it was filmed other places. But that was it. And then of course the last half of the movie takes place kind of in an alternate realm, a la Kung Lao,
yeah,
Kun
I
Lao.
think so.
And this one was what I think this one was called. It's a similar name.
Yeah,
but it exists on a different plane of existence, but it still affects reality. Real quick, on a side note, I was thinking about
Tao Lo was
the Shang-Chi version.
Yeah.
Real quick on the character of Wenwu and his, he put down the rings. He became a decent human being. He was no longer, as you see behind me, the quote Mandarin. He became a good father, a good husband, and it was only after his wife is killed that he begins to allow grief to overtake him, and he doesn't even go back full evil. He kind of does, but he really doesn't. And in good villain fashion, he tries to justify his means. But it wasn't until the last act of the movie that we see he goes fucking nuts because of the 10 rings. As they said, the 10 rings begin to speak to him. And I liked that aspect of it, is you great power comes with great responsibility is, and one of the great things about Stan Lee storytelling back in the day, and it's still to this day in other storytelling, is I can give Spider-Man these great powers, superhuman strength. I can shoot, he's a smart kid and he can create these web shooters and he can walk up walls and he can pick up cars, but he
Yeah.
still has acne. He still has this, he still has that. And where I'm getting at with Wenwu was he has these rings. It gives him great power. He can do all these things. He can kick ass. He can do this. He can move objects like that. But he goes nuts. It's kind of like in Lord of the Rings with the power ring. You can use it and disappear and go into that shadow realm. But guess what happens? Just like it does with Schmeagol with the Gollum, is he transforms. People don't realize Gollum was originally a hobbit and he goes nuts because of the freaking ring. And so in the Marvel universe, Wenwu begins to go nuts and his true power comes out. And what I liked about his approach to that moment of like snap and goes off the deep end, we've seen guys that snap. Most specifically is when Wilson Fisk in the Daredevil shows is triggered by emotion. When someone messes with the wife, I can't remember the wife's name now, the characters. When he finds out that Wesley is murdered, he goes 0 to 60, but you could see it bubbling in him. Wenwu was more methodical and it played out, and maybe it festered a little bit, but he was so devious, but at the same time he was so psychotic because he was hearing voices and the rings were speaking to him. And I think that's one of the aspects, and to tie into the post-credit scene where we see Katie and Shang Chi meet with Wong, Captain Marvel, and Bruce Banner, non-Hulk Bruce Banner, by the way, which will be interesting to see how that plays out in She-Hulk. Is the rings are of an item of unknown origin. They don't know where they came from. So we don't know the damage that these rings are doing. What damage did it do to Wenwu and whatnot? So
I feel like that is a possible scenario that might work out. I still feel like even one of my biggest things for me was that that was done wrong for me was, of course, the actual evil villain in the film was that huge ass soul sucker, which I felt like was played in there. And the soul sucker was talking through their 10 rings to Shang-Chi or to Wenwu. Like I just feel for me, man, like just like the guy was going through a lot of grief. That's it.
Absolutely.
Like, he was going through a lot of grief. And like for those who watch Castlevania, right, the Netflix show, the anime series, like the very first episode, you understand why he did the things he did, because grief can take some crazy freaking forms. And that grief definitely for guys has gone to the root of toxicity in this sense, like physical toxicity. And so like there is a point to be said that there is the Ten Rings can play a huge part in his devolving of his mind and just his overall emotional landscape. But I do feel that a lot of that is a tribute to the freaking soul sucker, which was for me one of the worst parts of the movie. It was cool, don't get me wrong, but like it's not that bad. But it's probably the worst part of the movie for me, where it's cool. You see, we kind of did this whole thing, this Marvel thing, of like we showed the villain in a new light, so we don't really want to necessarily kill him, right, or kill this villain.
I like them.
But we have to kill something. We have to show an actual big bad, and this big
there
bad
has to be a villain.
This 10,000 or even older million year old freaking being that came across the stars and is sucking out souls, type of stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. But there is a point to be made that it's possibility that the 10 rings are of unknown origin. could be degrading Shang-Chi to a certain extent, where it could affect his mindscape. It's a big possibility. I agree with that. But I do feel that that a lot of his misdeeds came from just his emotional place where he was at, just emotionally and psychologically because of the loss of his wife and his kids basically. So I don't know, but that was just me.
No, and again, thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I would go see it again in the theater if I've got an opportunity to. But again, November 12th is when it comes to Disney Plus and digital, and it should be coming out end of November for Blu-ray. We talked a little bit about the comparisons of Hong Kong cinema and Southeast Asian action, the influences of Jackie Chan. Real quick, we'll end on this. What does this mean to the future of the Marvel film and the cast? Well, we saw JR in the post-credit scene 2 things. We saw in the first one, the end of the movie, we see Wong open up the portal, goes into the restaurant after Sean and Katie tell their big story to their friends that don't believe him. They go to the Sanctum Sanctorum, meet with Wong, and they find out that these rings have an unknown origin. Carol Danvers says, I've been to one stretch of this universe to another. I have no idea where these things are from. It's assumed, and we talked about this last week, that Bruce Banner is in the top 5 smartest guys in the Marvel universe. And it's no secret that he's similar in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And Bruce has no idea where these things from a technological standpoint. They're not earthbound. Nothing in the Stargate matches these devices. So we get to see that cameo, which was super cool. And basically Bruce says, welcome to the team, kid. And Shang-Chi and Katie are, well, at least Shang-Chi is kind of made an unofficial Avenger. Post-credit scene was a little bit more mysterious. We see Xiling, the sister, back at the headquarters of Wenwu, the headquarters of the Ten Rings. She's kind of, it looks like at first that she's taking on the posters from her show, from her room, and then all of a sudden her friend says, okay, it's time. And she goes into this courtyard, and she's not dismantling her dad's empire. She's rebuilding it and making it stronger. You have men and women fighting against one another. You have exactly what she wanted. And then she sits upon the throne that is sitting right there behind me. If you're watching the YouTube version, the picture of Wenwu sitting on the throne of the Ten Rings, she sits on this throne with her friends on each side, including Razor Fist. And then you see her, like I said, take her place, fade to black. Not Shang-Chi, not Katie, not Wenwu, not Xiling. The Ten Rings will return. So we get that stinger that we've seen. Iron Man will return. Captain America will return. The Guardians of the Galaxy will return. Thor will return. Loki. The Ten Rings will return. And that was both like exciting and ominous at the same time. I like that ending. What does that mean? All bets are off, bro. We know that the Ten Rings themselves, the physical Ten Rings, are something's sketchy about them. They're alien. What does these mean? Where does this power come from? The organization, the Ten Rings, now led by Xiling, is it good? Is it bad? What does it mean? And we will find out hopefully sooner than later. Like I said, JR mentioned before, it's not been official yet, but it is a far gone conclusion. This movie is getting a sequel.
It easily will. I feel like for me, the Ten Rings, it's just my own personal theory. I feel like for me, the Ten Rings is gonna be somewhat similar to like kind of like a backer for Shang-Chi, in the sense of like like what the
I like your theory on the story. Sorry.
Like let's say what's the criminal organization, the ninja organization that is actually currently trying to fight against, that Daredevil constantly fights against?
The
with
hand.
stick, the hand, right?
Yeah.
Let's say if Daredevil got in control of the hand, but he still wants to be a superhero. That's like the hand backing up, like being the front runner, like to give him all the cash, right? Type of stuff. I feel like that's what's gonna be like for Shang-Chi, where like he needs to get to places, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Macau. That's where the original just came into my head right now. I apologize, but the original the fighting organization that his sister owned was in Macau,
Okay.
China, I think. Yeah, but
Yes. Yeah.
so let's say if he needs to go, if let's say if Shang-Chi needs to fly back to Macau or needs to fly to anywhere else in the world, is he just gonna randomly have money?
Well,
You
he's
know,
an Avenger now. He's gonna have
sure,
that. But
possibly, but you can't. Oh, but you can't always rely on Hong to transport you to wherever you need to go, right?
yeah,
So that's what I'm thinking. Like the way that Tony was to the Avengers, I feel like Ten Rings will be in a certain regard to
to Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi. Again, granted, it's his sister. She's gonna do whatever the hell she wants to, as she should. She might go conquer wherever, or she might just have bigger, better fucking fights to live cast. I don't know.
JR,
But
you
yeah,
had brought up this theory about right after we saw the movie
yeah,
was maybe um the Ten Rings led by Jiling
mm,
is going to be an organization that is not 100% good,
mm,
but it's not 100% bad.
yeah,
And that they are someone that they're an organization that monitors the same villainous activities that Shang-Chi is going after. So you
possibly.
have two organizations. You have Shang-Chi, an Avenger, but still, a good guy in his own right, a superhero in his own right, observing the same criminal activities that the Ten Rings are, and maybe there's something that Shang-Chi goes up against that he just can't do, and he
Yeah,
goes, you know what? I know to stop this bad guy, I have to kill him, but I can't kill him. Hey, Ten Rings, so maybe they become the organization to
oh,
do Shang-Chi's dirty work. That
oh,
they'll go where he can't go mentally, emotionally. That's something to show. Let us know in the comments below. By the way,
mm,
if you're a Spotify listener, we're going to start adding some cool features. This just got added from Anchor. So if you're
mm,
on our audio version, we're going to add a weekly Q&A question, and also there's going to be a survey, a little poll, fan poll, and we'll come up with something. I'll let JR come up with one, but that's exclusively to our Spotify listeners.
hey,
You can actually interact with the show by answering our Q&A question of the week,
yep,
and also get involved with our poll question. Our poll question on our last show, which was episode 8 of What If, was
mm,
what's your favorite fight scene from What If? Go over to the Spotify, um, our Spotify channel,
mm,
and which is just look at PS Comics I Love You and find um the bonus episode of episode 8 of What If, and also let us know in the comment section. There's a
yeah,
Q&A question, so go over there and we'll have some for this episode as well, and whatever future ones. Wrapping things up, JR,
yep.
what your opinion is more on where this falls in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or you kind of said there was your theory. Where does this land in JR's uh top list now, counting Shang-Chi? We are now up to 25 films. Where does Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings rank amongst the top 25 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies?
I think for me, it'll just fall below a top 5, but it would be like in top 8 for me. I don't know where specifically, but it'll be in top 8 for me.
I've got it as my number 9.
Hmm.
For context, my top 10 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. Ant-Man number 10. I love Ant-Man. I think it's a great film. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Doctor Strange,
Yep.
Spider-Man Far From Home, The Avengers, Iron Man at number 5, Guardians of the Galaxy at number 4, Avengers Endgame at 3, Avengers Infinity War at 2, still holding tight at number 1. Really don't think you can really beat it. Is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Such a good story.
Yeah.
Shang Chi: The Legend of the Ten Rings, to me, it did a lot of things right. Acting overperformed, hands down. Writing was good. Cinematography was great.
Yep.
The choreography was great. Costumes were good. I give it a solid A-. It's not an A+ film, but it's an A-. But I will say one last thing, JR.
So
Save the best for last. We were privy to what could have possibly been the greatest cinematic performance of a villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe nearly 10 years ago, when it was announced that Sir Ben Kingsley was going to portray the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. We were going to get arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Iron Man villain of all time going to the silver screen in the form of Sir Ben Kingsley. Okay. White man. So
okay.
He's a mixed race, but a white man playing an Asian character.
Yeah. You've
said before, it's Ben Kingsley.
Yeah.
Don't have a big problem with it. Swerve, it's not Kevin. It's Kevin Flattery or okay. Sorry, Trevor Slattery.
Yep.
What did you think of the return of Trevor Slattery to the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
That was a good nod. It was a good nod.
I was a good nod.
It was good. It was just more so like I love the fact that they at least made note of the whole type of like there's power named, and the head of the head of the thing. Yeah, I'm a head of a 10 Rings organization that toppled governments and was rampant towards history, and they named me after a fruit.
Yeah.
Really? Okay. But I'm glad they made tribute to that. But like just overall his character in there, it was good. I enjoyed it. He was fun, man. Just and that little thing with
Melvin.
Melvin. That dude, yeah, I want one. That was cute. But and like how he acted him dead. Yeah, man. I was fun. I enjoyed it, man. It was it definitely brought a lot of levity to the film, or no brevity to the film. For me, where like it was kind of serious. Like they had a lot of like serious family character stuff, but then they bring in Ben Kingsley back, and that was fun. It was good for me.
And they didn't kill him off, so he's still technically canon. So he's still in there. Let us know in the comments below, guys, what you thought of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. If you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, hopefully we didn't spoil the movie too much for you. Sorry, we probably did. But let us know what you were most excited to see in this film. I am really anxious to see. I know it's like I say that about every movie, but I'm really excited to see the Eternals, which is about a month and a half away. But and see how it ties in. I think that these are two films that will probably more so than anything kind of tie with one another. But we'll see what the Eternals does. I'm really excited because I know coming off the heels of her Academy Award win, I'm really cannot wait for I can't think of her first name. It's completely drew a blank on the director's name. Something Chow.
Gemma Chow?
Is it something Chow?
Is it Gemma Chow? Let me see. For
Eternals.
For Eternals.
I just have it right. I always happen to have it right here in front of me. It is Chloe Zhao. I apologize.
Chloe Zhao. Okay,
I was way off.
Yeah.
But I'm really super excited to see that. But all right, guys. Just like I said, let us know. Hit us up on Twitter too at PS Comics. I love the PS Comics. I love you. You're gonna want to follow us on Twitter. You're gonna want to follow us on Facebook. You're gonna want to follow us on Instagram. And do we still have a MySpace page? I don't know. Because we're gonna be doing a live show soon. We're working on the kinks. We've got to get JR accommodated with the other software, but we're gonna do something live sometime soon. I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, guys, again, just let us know what you like, what you disliked, what you liked about
Mhm.
Shang-Chi, what you disliked about Shang-Chi. What could they have done differently? What did you think what should they do more of? Hit us up, let us know. And keep it clean, guys, because you got to understand that. No, I'm looking out for JR, because not that our fans would do this. This
Yeah.
is a film that is very specific.
Yeah.
And it's a movie based on Asian culture. Remember, guys, you have an Asian man who is a co-host of this podcast and is really and truly the founder, the backbone of this podcast. If it were not for JR, I would have never taken my brand new computer and said, let's do a podcast. So be kind, guys. Not that you guys would do anything disrespectful, but you never know. The smallest thing might be taken inappropriately. So again,
I will say this: if you do have a problem with me, come and fight me.
yeah. And JR is the least offended person you'll ever meet, as you can show by his guns. Like I said, it's every day's arm day.
Yep.
But just as someone who has been wised up by JR, just be chill about certain things, and just be and check swing on some of your comments. Like, like I said, if you're going to say something, go like, ooh, maybe that might come out the wrong way. Just like I said, it is, like I said, it's a different movie. This was a different movie. God, I loved it. I want to see it again so bad. Really. I've got the itch to go see it again. So guys, go out there and check it out. And while you're at it, go get yourself some freaking Jackie Chan movies. Oh my gosh, I need to go. I'm gonna go hit up iTunes. I'm gonna see if they've got some old classic Jackie Chan. I do want to do some research. I think JR, you and I said there's a lot that are on HBO Max.
Yep.
Netflix
a lot of
well. What's that?
Netflix as well. They got a couple of Netflix.
Netflix. I think there's some on Paramount Plus as well.
Yeah.
They're all over the place, but I think Netflix and HBO Max were the biggies that really had a lot of old Hong Kong cinema.
Yeah.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I believe, is on HBO
Netflix.
Max.
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. Okay, I apologize. Real quick, JR, you got 5 movies. Okay, you are the expert. If you've not seen Shang-Chi, or even if you have, you got 5 movies that are must watch as a remember, they're not in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. These are Hong Kong cinema. These are fighting movies, Chinese cinema. 5 movies that fans who enjoy Shang-Chi or are going to enjoy Shang-Chi should also watch.
Okay,
you got 5 movies. I'll do the little countdown for you.
Sure.
What you got, bro?
I got Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is one. Gorgeous.
I knew he was gonna say that. I know those two are just like almost a lock, right?
Yeah, easily. I would also say Ip Man, the first movie. I will probably also go just in style with Shang-Chi. I'll probably go with let's bring in Rush Hour. Rush Hour 1. Sure.
So we're gonna go Rush Hour 1, Ip Man, Crouching Tiger, Gorgeous, and what was the 5th one?
I gotta bring in a Jet Li movie. Let's say
Romeo Must Die.
That's a good movie too, though. Fist of Fury.
I know that one.
Yeah.
I'll put him in the comment below too, guys. I'm gonna put it in my notes right now. JR's recommendation, and he has not steered me wrong yet. So we got Fist.
That's actually might be Bruce Lee movie. I'm thinking about the other Fist of Fury. Because there's a Jet Li movie that did have to do Fist of Legend.
Fist of Legend, would you say?
Fist of Legend. Now, Fist of Fury is an original Bruce Lee movie, which is great as well too, and I recommend that as well. But in regards to how a lot of the fight scenes are kind of developed in a certain way, I would say Fist of Legend. Fist of Legend is a great freaking movie just for the combative style. Don't get me wrong, Bruce Lee. If you need to watch Bruce Lee movies, go see freaking Enter the Dragon. Go see Fist of Fury. Go see the Chinese Connection, I think it's called, another Bruce Lee film. But yeah, if you want to go see Bruce Lee movies, go see Bruce Lee movies. Absolutely. But for
So
those 5 right now,
yeah.
comparisons to Shang-Chi, it would be Fist of Legend.
So if you want to do a little Shang-Chi block party and you just can't get enough of it, but you don't want to go full Marvel deep dive and you want to go fighting Chinese cinema, really enjoy some good flicks. And I can attest. I mean, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Academy Award winning film, Rush Hour, massive blockbuster film, cultural phenomenon film, Fist of Legend, haven't seen it. I'll put it on the list. It Man, I've heard nothing but good things about that movie.
Yeah.
And obviously my man over here has been spitting about Gorgeous for so long. I think those are 5 solid films. I'll put them in the comments below if you didn't get to if you can't remember, if you don't want to rewind and whatnot, but I'll put them in the description rather for you guys to do through to kind of peruse through. All right, guys, thank you so much again. At Voice of Reason 23, JR, also not JR Comics 42. Some bent Marvel comics coming soon.
Oh my.
Fresh out of Random House.
God.
So, and by the way, support your local comic book store, whether it be
Please.
Asylum, Desert Oasis, or Interstellar.
Please.
And by the way, guys, real quick, as someone who has now had not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 7 items go back order on Amazon between Funkos and movie props and Marvel Legends items. Get your Christmas shopping done now. And I highly recommend going to Comic Asylum and just get whatever they have in stock, because things are getting a little scary out there when it comes to shipping. So we'll talk about that. Sneak peek about this weekend. We have the season finale bonus episode of What If, and JR, I think we're gonna have to do this. It is that time of season again. You know what's happening this weekend as we're talking? New York Comic-Con.
That's right.
2021. So we will bring back the Wrath of the Con 2021 edition. And we are just around the corner from Fandom and Disney Plus Day, November 12th. So we got a lot of stuff to come up. Thank you so much. Be kind to one another. Wear your damn mask. JR, as always, my good boy. Peace.
All right, man.